Traveling pills.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we are again.
So we're back.
We're back.
So we went to the Glebe House and Garden today.
Yes. Where is the Glebe House and Gardens?
It's in Connecticut, which is where we're at right now. We've ventured into a different state.
It is in Woodbury, Connecticut.
Thank you.
I knew where it was.
Okay.
We're up in my neck of the woods.
Yes.
So different location.
Yeah.
And we went to the Glebe House.
Yeah, and so this property was originally, it went through lots of owners, but the main priest, Reverend John Marshall, and his wife Sarah lived there with 9 children.
Yes. And we learned today that of the 9, 7 were born in the house.
Yes.
And lived there. Yeah. I think the 2 youngest did not.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Along with also, given the time, several indentured servants, some slaves.
Yes. I mean, they said indentured service, but they were slaves.
Yeah, we knew. They tried to keep things very PC on that tour.
Oh, they really did.
Yeah, because what I found...
Well, there was so much climate, because there was the fact, and I'm interrupting you, and I'm sorry, but there was also the climate of the fact that he supported the king. Yeah,
so that's what I was just going to say, is that's what's really interesting, is it's very Hamilton. It's very, like, it makes me think of Jonathan Groff as the king.
Yep.
And how we don't like him. But, yeah, the tour was very much like, oh, he supported the king, and this was okay, and it was so terrible that he got, like, beat up. He went
to trial.
Yeah.
He was on house arrest.
He couldn't, he was attacked whenever he left his house.
Yeah.
There's some of the lore is that he is one of the people who potentially haunts the home still.
Okay. I mean, I could see it from what I learned today.
Yeah. Also, one of his servants haunts the house, apparently, the attic, which we saw.
Yes, the attic was spooky.
Super
spooky.
So what was interesting to me, so we went on the little tour, which was very adorable, with the cutest little octogenarian woman in full regalia.
Yeah. Well, I think she said she is a word retrieval.
Yes,
oh my gosh, word retrieval.
Like an actor in the...
Yeah, but they
recreate
but what is it called? Reenactment!
Thank you. Reenactment.
A reenactment. She does reenactment.
Yes. Yeah, she was a volunteer tour guide.
And she had the whole garb, and she was so sweet.
She was so sweet. She knew, she was like, do you have any questions? I can go on and on about this house forever and ever.
Yeah. Actually, the whole staff, they were all just very sweet.
They were all very nice.
They were so sweet.
Yeah. And they definitely, like, lean into the spooky a little bit. They had, like, a whole shelf of, like, tarot and oracle.
There was a magazine that I took pictures of that talked about the Glebe House being haunted.
Yeah.
And then in October, on the 19th, which I want to look into maybe getting tickets, there's a cemetery.
Yes, across
the house.
Street.
And the church is the church that Reverend Marshall was the reverend at.
Yeah.
And so there's supposed to be a tour on October 19th.
Oh, nice.
So if this comes out before October 19th,
maybe you
can get tickets if you feel like going to Connecticut.
Yeah.
If not, I'll snip it in a little bit and say how it was if we're able to go.
Yeah. So this was all, I should mention, during the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we talked about the king. So
right.
So he, in all of his sermons, was still praying to the king. Still,
that's dodgy.
He always said, quote, "Pray for the king in England and his servants. He felt his first sacred obligation and duty was to God and to England." So when the tour guide was like, she was very diplomatic about sort of information.
Yeah. But that's like so dicey. Like, it's no wonder every time he stepped out of his home.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to get into this, but it rings true to today's current political climate.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I mean,
division.
Yeah.
But we'll let that end there.
Yep.
We know that his sister died in the house in the orange chair that we saw.
Yes, so we found out there was 2 pieces of furniture in this house that was original family furniture, and one of which was this orange wingback, which we took photos of.
Yeah.
That they brought in from the city. So I don't know if she died in the chair in the
true.
city in New York.
Yeah.
Or if she died in the chair
when they brought it and she died in the
I don't
house.
know.
I'm not sure.
Fun fact. We'll figure it out.
So back to the hauntings, which I find most interesting. So there are reportedly 2 ghosts in particular that call the Glebe House home. And the first is, this is one we haven't talked about yet. So the first is actually one of the conspirators who attacked the Reverend.
Oh.
And he is considered an aggressive spirit.
Okay.
And he's also in the attic.
So we're on this tour today, and it's us, and our friend Jen came as well, and again, very nice woman. And in the midst of the beginning of the tour, these 2 older couples came in.
Joined the tour late.
And everything felt fine until they joined.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it felt like there was this presence, like kind of ominous, like heavy. And I texted you.
Yeah.
And I also texted Jen because I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, I might have to leave the house. I'm very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, if it had to do with that spirit.
Oh, interesting. And like the house getting fuller of like tourists and
And who knows like who they are as people. I mean, they seem like very nice people.
Yeah.
We're all very neutral territory. Like we are very calm and outgoing and peaceful and
kind of in tune to that, so we're kind of respectful and
exactly. And it just the energy changed immediately. And if we hadn't finally shifted out of that room and went upstairs to another room, I was exiting and letting you guys finish it because I was just like I can't. It was heavy. It was so heavy. I was uncomfortable.
No, I definitely was too. Like we both kind of were like peeking into other rooms and just kind of like I was like I need to like move. I need this like space.
This energy
to, like,
is not
move.
okay right now. Yeah. So I wonder, since that was like a negative energy.
Yeah, if that like.
Or I mean, who? Okay, is Reverend Marshall one of the spirits?
Potentially, yes.
So my other thought is, if it's not this negative energy, if maybe Reverend Marshall, could sense that we were very like.
Oh, interesting.
Calm. Spiritual, like understanding people.
Yeah.
And maybe the energy these couples brought.
Yeah.
Set him off.
Right. Yeah, because it could be so the 2 main spirits that they talk about are the aggressive conspirator.
I mean, I did not feel good.
Yeah. And then the second ghost is that of an African American woman, possibly a maid of the house, honestly probably a slave.
Yeah.
And she is known as a friendly presence, but she sometimes can be upset. So
really, I just got chills.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it was suddenly a lot of people, and it just felt uncomfortable, whether it was her or the dark presence or Marshall or Reverend Marshall. The energy just was off, and it was not good. And when she finally was like, okay, let's go upstairs, I'm like, okay. And it lifted when we got upstairs. I mean, it was still there, but it wasn't like it was downstairs.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't as bad.
What's interesting is that was in the room where he like did all his sermons and taught everything.
Yes.
And we went in and I had kind of talked about like the weirdness of like how the Glebe House kind of like is like, oh, he was a supporter of the king, and that's great and fine. And we kind of were talking about it, and we're like, actually not really at that time.
No. Well, and she brought up the Boston Tea Party, which, fun fact, didn't know that tea came in, like, bars.
Yeah,
like it basically
bricks.
looked like, well, when she first said it's something you put in you, I was like, is it lard?
Yeah.
Because, like, sometimes with lard, they'll put, like, that waxy coating
Yeah.
over it. So I thought, is it like that, or is it soap?
Right.
Like, but then when she said it was tea...
Yeah, I was shocked. It looked like this, like,
brick.
hard brick. Like,
Yeah.
black, almost like iron or something. Yeah. But then I was like, oh, tea.
So, like, what they threw into the Boston Tea Party... Or into the Boston Tea Party, into the harbor, into the harbor in Boston. Oh my God, was these bricks?
Yeah,
and she said that in today's money, it was $1 million. Worth of tea.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
Yeah, it was also really interesting because the Boston Tea Party, like. As far as like what we kind of were brought up and taught was like a good thing.
Yeah.
And her opinion was very much
right
that it was it harmed the town.
It harmed. I mean, yeah, they paid a hefty fine and people got in trouble, but I mean,
yeah, they were very pro king.
I found that interesting.
But I kind of wonder if like our own like preconceived notions about the house going in.
Well, you're gonna learn that in any country. You go to any country and you look at the history books that they have in their school classrooms, and it's going to be a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different perspective of World War II. It's going to be a different perspective of the Civil War.
Yeah.
Even from the South and the North.
Oh, yeah. Well, and let's be honest. Like,
and that's our own country.
Yeah, America's school system. That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah. Well, we won't go there. We will not go there.
No. So here's a good... looping us back in.
Back to the ghost.
Back to the ghost, just because I have a couple good stories left. So there are a couple more interesting little paranormal. So some of the ghosts don't like paranormal investigators, while others are more cordial, especially to children.
Ah.
And there was
What's going on with the lamp?
It's moving.
Oh, I think I moved the table.
Damn it.
I know, I'm sorry. That's it.
Damn it. Okay, sorry. So
it's okay. I've bumped it a couple of times.
They're
more cordial to children, which is I feel like it's kind of
well,
common.
I mean, so here's the thing too. Like obviously, the most present ghost that we're talking about is like the slave and the one of the townspeople.
Yeah.
Possibly Reverend Marshall.
Yes.
But he also had 9 kids.
Yeah.
And just because they're not a very strong presence,
right,
does not necessarily mean they're not in there being playful.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you would assume the woman who is potentially a maid was probably like the nanny nurse to the children as well. Yeah. So like she probably has a fondness to children.
They said they had 3 indentured servants, I believe.
Yes, I think
it was 2 women and a man.
I think so.
Yeah. But the ones that are friendlier, does it say what they do, or they play with the children, or?
Well, so here's a story. A Girl Scout leader who was on tour with her troop of 7-year-old girls inadvertently took a picture of a smiling African American woman on the first floor.
Oh.
Enjoying the visit of the little girls.
Aww.
One investigator caught what researcher Donna Kent describes as a non-human voice on the recorder threatening to go home with Donna Kent, which apparently she had on her way home a distressing personal experience with an entity in her car.
Oh gosh, no thank you.
So something followed her home.
Oh boy.
And then as well, there were many types of orbs that have been caught on camera.
Oh, we haven't gone through
it yet.
No, we haven't gone through any of that yet. There could be something.
There could be, yeah.
There could be something. I'm getting chills.
Yeah, I did too.
Yep.
Yep.
That's interesting. You know what we didn't bring up, and I don't know if you put this into your history notes, and if we have to Google something,
right,
we can do that right now.
Yeah.
But the gardens. at the Glebe House, which was Jacoby. Was that her name?
No, it was Jekyll.
Jekyll.
Yes.
What's her first name? Do you have that?
Gertrude.
Oh, I should have remembered that.
Gertrude.
I
Jekyll
had a great
Garden.
aunt who was a Gertrude.
Oh.
And everybody called her Trudy, except for my grandfather.
That's
Do you know what my
cute.
grandfather called her?
What? Gertie?
I'm sorry, Aunt Gertie.
Gertie.
Dirty Gertie.
Dirty Gertie. Poor Aunt Dirty Gertie.
Yeah,
That's
everybody else
adorable.
called her Trudy, except for Oompa.
So, yes, there's a beautiful garden outside.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
And
English garden.
Yes, and Gertrude, Jacoby,
Jekyll.
Jekyll.
Think Jekyll
Why
and
do I
Hyde.
keep wanting to say Jacoby?
I don't know.
Gertrude Jekyll
Yes.
was a renowned, famous
Yeah.
gardener.
Yes.
And created all these gorgeous gardens in England.
Yeah.
And she never actually came to the States, but she designed it
Yeah, she
for
designed
this house, for
the entire
them.
garden, yeah.
And they said she was from, I was at the mid to late 1800s to the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Which this house though was built in 17.
Like late
So
like
it was
mid
later.
to late 1700s.
In
yeah.
fact, we don't even know who the owners were when the gardens were done.
Yeah, in the tour they talked, I mean, she went through a lot of names. There were, after the Reverend and his family was gone, then another guy came in and they said that after the Reverend and his family like moved on or passed away or
Right.
whatever the situation was, she was saying that they had like some workers who were coming in, so that house became like kind of like where the workers live.
Yeah, and it became very run down because
Yeah.
it wasn't being taken care of.
Yeah, and so
Which is sad. I wonder if then the gardens were done when the Historical Society became a part of it. Because the house is on the National Historical
yes,
because of the history,
Yeah.
obviously, behind it. So I wonder if that's when the gardens were done. Listen, we have told you once and we'll tell you again, we're not historians.
No.
We're not. We might not even get our Google facts correct or have it in front of us and read it incorrectly. God knows I'm good at that. But interesting.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also interesting. She said that the tour guide that it was because of the Reverend and like all of that history that they were able to like restore because they like found
Right.
like his papers and his
Yes,
Bible
which
and,
is all there.
yeah.
You could see all of that.
Yeah.
They had all of that.
And she also was saying that this was like the wealthy part of town. This was considered a mansion at
And
the
it was
time.
all old homes on that one street.
Yeah, there are a couple of historical homes, like
Yeah.
in another episode we are going to talk about another place that's
That
down
we
the
went,
road.
yeah, down the road, yep.
But yeah, that whole area, there was like several homes and like historical
Yeah.
buildings.
It was an old town. I mean, beautiful, very cute,
Yeah.
very New England.
Very New England, yes.
And everyone's starting to have like their fall festival,
Yeah.
decorations and whatnot.
Yeah, it was cute.
It's super cute. It's super cute. Were there any other like supernatural?
So the one place that we didn't get to stop, but we drove kind of through because there wasn't really anywhere to like
Yeah.
get into, was the which if you're able to go on the 19th,
Oh,
they
the
do a tour.
cemetery.
The cemetery, yeah.
In fact, I was like, do you think he's buried here? I don't know where he died.
Yeah,
He didn't die in Connecticut? Did he die in Connecticut?
That I'm not sure actually. That is a good question that we should look at.
Again, not historians.
Yeah, not historians. Also, limited history.
That's true. That is true.
There is a graveyard that is across the road, but it kind of goes up to the back of the church.
Yeah, there's no like parking right there. And
No.
when we drove past the church, I couldn't find.
There was no parking.
Parking.
I feel like it's all kind of part of the Glebe House, and like you
I think.
just, like,
well,
walk
I feel
over.
like the church is active still.
Oh,
So I
okay.
do wonder if there's like a parking lot across the street behind the buildings because there was a bunch of buildings right there.
That
So,
could be.
I mean, some of it probably is people just walking to church, but I think it's still active.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because I saw like the service.
services and yeah. But apparently some of the spirits from the house have been known to wander into the graveyard.
That's interesting because remember we talked about in the mini episode we just released, or well, it might be a few weeks from in the past, but the jewelry box. Well, I asked you, do you think a spirit can be more in more than one place?
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, they've been known to wander the grounds.
That's crazy.
Cross a road. Yeah. It also, it seems that spirits from the graveyard, that there are also spirits who are attached to the gravestones.
Okay.
And there are stones in the garden.
In the garden of the house?
Of the house.
Okay, the Glebe House.
Yes. That are originally gravestones that they turned into stepping stones.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whose grave?
Yeah, spirits who are attached to the gravestones turned stepping stones for the garden, as well as spirits of the owner and former residents of this historical colonial home like to visit and perhaps stay, remembering. One non-human spirit, oh boy, or just an aggressive negative entity also visits, it seems. So,
okay, I'm sorry.
Demon, perhaps? Like, what are we talking about?
We have gone to graveyards.
Yes.
Recently.
Yes.
And I remember just when we were at the Greenwood, and just us being like, oh, we should do a video. And I was like, where do we prop the phone? Because we can't prop the phone on grave, because that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that.
No.
And here they are taking gravestones
and turning them into stepping stones.
And just whose gravestone?
I don't know.
But I'm saying, like, it's so does that person now not have a gravestone?
Right? Did they replace it? Is it old?
Did he just say, well, I run this church, so I'm going to take whatever...
I mean,
and gravestones aren't, I mean, nowadays, I'm assuming back then too, they're not cheap.
They're not cheap, no. I mean, just the labor involved and the masonry and stonework, like...
I'm not okay with that.
No.
And I'm uncomfortable with the fact that we might have stepped on it today.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
You didn't warn me. Where was the warning?
In the research.
You're like, I read my notes.
I read my notes.
A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
ADHD.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't love that.
I don't at all.
Because I already, like, I feel like when walking through, like, as we said, we've been through several cemeteries, that there's almost no way to not, like, walk across somebody's grave.
And if you
even that just makes me a little. So So turning a grave, a headstone, into a stepping stone, like.
No, thank you. No, and like, I mean, obviously, accidentally, you're going to step on someone's grave. And if you realize in that moment, I, like you, am like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your final resting place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's just a level of disrespect.
There is a church. There's more than one church. There's lots of churches.
Yeah.
But there is a church in Bath, England.
Okay.
Where in the ground of the church, like you're walking in the church, just not in the basement.
Right.
There, it's graves. Like they're flat.
Yeah.
But there are people buried, like, in the church itself.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's like. Now we're getting really off topic, but that's okay. We're talking
about graves.
Yeah, it's on topic.
It's not the Glebe House, but
yeah. And we were talking about Arizona being our list of places to visit.
Yes.
And in Jerome, that the roads are made from crematorium remains. Like there are roads.
I'm creeped out, and I'm not even there. I'm not even there, and I'm creeped out. I'm creeped out, and I'm not there.
Yeah. Like, I want to really go, but I also am like, do I really want to go?
Does having a cross tattooed to my body help me in any way possible?
I mean, it can't hurt.
It's already there. I mean, it's not going away. It's already there. So it can't hurt.
Can't hurt.
That scares me, but I want to go. But it scares me.
Yeah. There's some great
There's also a church in New Haven. I haven't figured out which church yet. This shouldn't be hard. There aren't that many in the city itself. But the basement, and I think there's only set times that you can go, there are graves. Like, it's like a cemetery.
Oh, wow.
In the basement because of, like, the original,
Yeah.
and then having to rebuild. And
Yeah.
so there's the one that's out on the green that you can easily see, but then there is one in the basement of a church.
That reminds me of, like, the catacombs in Paris that just have, like,
Those are
skull and bones.
Those are so haunted.
Yeah.
I have seen many an episode on
Yeah.
different ghost hunting shows.
So haunted.
I would
I mean,
love...
when they're filled with bones that you can see.
So creepy.
So creepy.
You know what would be interesting? So you know how there are homes that have, like, tunnels to other homes?
Yes.
Oh.
Which...
Oh.
No, but keep going.
I'm sure those are haunted. Especially because some of them had to do with the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were already there because, you've got your, what is the storage, the food storage, what is that called? You've got your...
Like your, cellar.
Yeah, your
or-
cellar storage, yeah. Where you'd have your root vegetables and things like that for the winter. So some of it's that, some of that's like just trying to get to another house or something. But
Yeah.
a lot, especially on the East Coast, from the south to the north, is the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
So I'm sure haunted.
Yeah. So...
But I'm eager to know what you're about to tell me.
Yeah. So, I have, a little more information about just the house and the kind of lore behind it that I missed. So I want to fill you in that during the Revolutionary War, the community of Woodbury was especially zealous in its devotion to the cause of freedom from England.
Oh.
Yeah. So passions ran high, and those who were perceived to be on the Tory side, known as loyalists, weren't treated well. Unlike other English Episcopal ministers who fled to safer grounds in Canada, Reverend Marshall chose to stay in his community out of duty to the Lord and the people of his congregation, despite being staunchly in support of the King of England.
So I have like a few comments on that. One being, okay, good for you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
a reverend, you're trying to stay by your community, you're trying to preach God's good powers.
Yeah.
I'm speaking out of my behind at the moment. Spiritualist here. Anyways, but you're not wanted. You're clearly not wanted.
Yeah.
You are put on house arrest. You're being pulled out and beaten. You're being put on trial for your favoritism? What's the word I'm looking for?
Favoritism?
Favoritism towards the king.
Yes.
Of England.
Yes.
I mean, either change your views or leave.
Get out, yeah. Like, why didn't you flee to Canada to safer ground?
But, here's the thing. Not just his own life. I mean, for me, like, as someone with children,
his
they would come
family.
first.
Yeah.
Like, we're not safe here.
Yeah, we need to go.
The work I'm doing here is no longer needed. They do not want me here.
Yeah.
I would be leaving.
Yeah.
I'd be worried about my children.
So here's something interesting, too, because you brought up Underground Railroad and the
Yeah.
tunnels and all of that. So Marshall was put under house arrest. We talked about that.
Yeah.
He was allowed to go to the church to preach and say anything he wanted and return home.
Was that a safe path for him? Was he allowed to...
No, that's where...
Well, because, that wasn't even a real... I mean, maybe it was a dirt road.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a road.
No. I mean, just a little path.
Yeah. I mean, it's a road now, but...
Yeah, and he continued with his unpopular prayer despite the consequences.
Did people go to his services?
I mean, there must have
Was
been
it the only
some.
church at the time? Well, it was Presbyterian, right? Or
Episcopalian.
Episcopalian, okay.
Yeah. So
it was Christian.
Yeah. So he paid dearly for his courage and beliefs, as we've discovered. When the inspectors would show up and trash his house or whatever. But he found a way to survive by making a secret space under the main stairs, built halfway into the ground.
Oh.
The doorway was hidden behind a false back of the hutch covered with a panel of wood. It could be accessed quickly in times of evasion. Also, right behind and below the hiding space was an entrance to a tunnel that may have led to his friend's house, another loyalist.
Do you think it was the red house? She kept bringing up the red house today.
Interesting. That could be.
Which was like right across the street.
Yeah. So this
because behind it was a park.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who knows?
I mean,
what
there
it
could have
was.
been something.
There was
built.
the historical house, the historical society to the right, so it could also have been that house.
Yeah, or it could
that
have been
wasn't
something
open
that
today,
doesn't exist anymore. Too.
Yeah.
But supposedly this was one of the richest men in town. And it wasn't until 1925 that the secret space and tunnel were discovered by people from the Seabury Society for the Preservation.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is super crazy.
Yeah, so
that it wasn't it 1925?
1925 that it was finally discovered. Interesting that she didn't bring that part up.
I
that
know.
he had to be sneaking around and like there's just all these like little details that I feel like the
she definitely
historical society like has an opinion.
It's so weird though. Like why wouldn't you bring that up?
Yeah.
So weird. My cat is rubbing up against my leg.
She's probably in the shot. It'll be cute.
It's fine. No, it's so weird that you wouldn't. First of all, it's fascinating. Why wouldn't you bring that up?
Yeah.
That there's a tunnel.
Right. Like
I want to know.
I want to know.
Listen, there is a kid, Katie, and she wants to know about the tunnels.
Yeah.
She wants to know about the hiding places because hide and go seek.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, I want to
know
into these tunnels.
Why wouldn't you talk about that? We should go back and be like, hey, where's the tunnel?
Tell me if you go on the 19th.
Oh, yes. I'm going to ask about the tunnel.
Yeah.
We're asking about the tunnel. We're going to find out about the tunnel.
Yeah,
it's happening. That's interesting.
Right?
That's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the Glebe House.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I did have fun going today.
I did too.
Besides the ominous, heavy-weighted moments, it was a good time. I won't lie, I was kind of happy to get out of the house.
Yeah, I was glad when the tour was over.
And it had nothing to do with the tour.
No,
it was just
it was ready.
So heavy.
Yeah.
I'll still go back, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Well, with that being said, we are the traveling ghouls.
So hitchhiking ghosts beware.